Victoria Hayes grabbed the janitor's arm and yanked him to a stop. "What the hell is this?" Her finger jabbed at the battered toolbox in his hand, at the faded logo scratched into the metal, at the words that made her blood run cold. Horizon Systems, 2014. "Answer me." Her voice echoed across the marble lobby. "Why does my company's logo appear on your toolbox?" 800 employees froze. Security rushed forward. Phones came out recording everything. David Chen, 43 years old, gray uniform stained with machine oil, looked up at the youngest CEO in Texas. He didn't flinch. "Because I built this company. Every line of code, every patent, every dollar you've ever made." He pulled his arm free from her grip. "Your father stole it from me the week my wife died." The lobby went dead silent. Victoria's face turned white. And somewhere in a high school across town, a 15-year-old girl named Lily Chen had no idea her entire world was about to collapse. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Victoria's hand shot out and grabbed his collar. "Say that again." David didn't resist, didn't pull away, just stood there letting her grip wrinkle the fabric of his maintenance uniform. "I said your father stole my company. You want me to speak slower?" "You're lying." "I'm not." "Prove it." David reached into his pocket with his free hand, pulled out his phone, tapped the screen twice. June 14, 2014. Certificate of Incorporation. Horizon Systems, LLC. Founders David Chen and Michelle Thompson. He turned the screen toward her face. "That's me on the left. That's my wife on the right. That's the garage where we built the prototype that runs your servers right now." Victoria stared at the photo. Her grip loosened. A young man, bright eyes, confident smile, standing next to a beautiful woman with dark hair and a pregnant belly. Behind them, a wall covered in whiteboards and sticky notes. She looked at the man in front of her, gray at the temples, lines around his eyes, calloused hands. The same jawline, the same steady gaze. The same man, 20 years older, a lifetime more tired. "Security," Victoria said quietly. "Let him go." The guard stepped back. Victoria released his collar, smoothed the wrinkled fabric with a gesture that might have been an apology. "My office, now." She turned and walked toward the elevator. David picked up his toolbox and followed. Behind them, 800 phones were already uploading to social media. The elevator doors closed. Victoria pressed 15. The executive floor. Silence. David watched the numbers climb. 3, 4, 5. "Your father approached us in 2017, he said. "We needed capital to scale. He offered $8 million for 45%. Victoria didn't look at him. "I know. I've read the acquisition files." "Then you know what the company was worth when he bought me out." $32 million, March 2019. "And you know what he paid me?" Silence. The elevator passed floor 9, 10, 11. $200,000, Victoria said quietly. "I saw the documents." "Did you see the date?" March 15th. "Did you see what happened on March 3rd? Victoria finally turned to look at him. "No." David's voice was flat. Empty, like he was reading from a police report. March 3rd, 2019, 7:47 p.m. My wife Michelle was driving home from work. Intersection of Oak Street and Fifth Avenue. A drunk driver ran a red light doing 60 miles an hour. The elevator stopped. Floor 15. The doors opened. Neither of them moved. "She died on impact," David said. "Our daughter was 2 years old. She was at home with a babysitter waiting for Mommy to come back." Victoria's throat moved. A swallow. Something she couldn't say. 12 days later, your father walked into my office. I hadn't slept in a week. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think. I couldn't look at my daughter without seeing her mother's face. David stepped out of the elevator. "He told me to sign the papers. He told me to take the money and go home. He told me it was what Michelle would have wanted." He stopped, turned back. So I signed. I took the money. I went home. And I spent the next 6 years being a father instead of a CEO. Victoria stepped out after him. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know. Now you do. Victoria's corner office had glass walls on 3 sides. You could see half of Austin from up here. The Capitol building, the University Tower, the sprawl of tech campuses stretching toward the horizon. David didn't look at any of it. He sat in the chair across from Victoria's desk, the toolbox resting on his knees. His fingers traced the faded letters carved into the lid. DC Horizon, 2014. Victoria sat behind her desk. She hadn't spoken since they entered the office. Just sat there staring at him, trying to reconcile the janitor in front of her with the ghost in her company's founding documents. Ask, David said. What? You have questions. Ask them. Victoria leaned forward. Her hands were clasped on the desk. Her knuckles were white. Why are you here? I work here. That's not what I mean. Why this company? Of all the places you could work, why come back to the company my father took from you? David was quiet for a moment. His thumb stopped moving on the toolbox. $22 an hour, he said. Better than my last job. Good benefits. Hours match my daughter's school schedule. Bullshit. David looked up. Victoria's eyes were hard, searching. I've met a lot of liars in this business, she said. You're not one of them, so tell me the truth. Why are you really here? David set the toolbox on the floor, leaned back in his chair. You ever build something with your own hands? Something that mattered? This company. No, you inherited this company. I'm asking if you've ever built something, from nothing, with someone you loved, watching it grow from an idea into something real. Victoria didn't answer. Michelle and I built Horizon in a garage, David said. We had nothing. No money, no connections, just 2 laptops and a whiteboard, and a dream that kept us working 20-hour days. He looked toward the window, toward the city he no longer recognized. She'd make coffee at 2 a.m., and we'd debug code until sunrise. She'd fall asleep on my shoulder during compile times. We'd celebrate every small victory like we'd won the lottery. His voice softened. When our daughter was born, Michelle held her in one arm and typed with the other. She said Lily should learn early that women can do anything. He smiled, a small, sad smile. That was Michelle. Fierce, brilliant, unstoppable. Victoria's voice was quiet. What happened to her? I told you, drunk driver. I mean, what happened to you? After. David's smile faded. I broke. The first week I didn't leave the hospital. David's voice was hollow now, distant, like he was watching himself from far away. They told me she was gone. I heard the words, I understood them, but I couldn't make myself believe them. Victoria sat motionless. I kept waiting for her to walk through the door, kept checking my phone for her texts, kept reaching for her side of the bed at night. He swallowed. Lily kept asking for Mommy, every morning, every night. Where's Mommy? When is Mommy coming home? And I couldn't. His voice cracked. I couldn't tell her. I couldn't find the words, so I just held her and cried. And she'd pat my face with her little hands and say, Don't cry, Daddy. Mommy will come back. Victoria looked away. Her jaw was tight. She was 2 years old. She didn't understand death. She just knew her mother wasn't there anymore, and her father was falling apart. David wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Your father showed up on day 12. I was sitting in my office staring at the wall. I hadn't showered, hadn't eaten. Lily was with my mother because I couldn't take care of her. I couldn't take care of myself. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Marcus walked in like he owned the place, which I guess he partly did. He sat down across from me and said, David, we need to talk about the company's future. Victoria flinched. I looked at him and said, My wife just died. And he said, I know, I'm sorry. But the board is concerned. Investors are nervous. We need stability. David shook his head. Stability. My wife was in the ground, and he wanted stability. What did you do? What could I do? I was destroyed. I had a 2-year-old who needed me. I couldn't fight. I couldn't think. I just wanted it to stop. He looked at Victoria. Your father handed me a pen and said, sign this. Take the money. Go be with your daughter. Let us handle the rest. And you signed. I signed. I didn't read the documents. I didn't negotiate. I just wanted out. I wanted to go home and hold my daughter and pretend the world wasn't ending. Victoria's voice was barely audible. $200,000. That's what my life's work was worth to your father. $200,000 and a broken man's signature. A knock on the door. Victoria didn't look away from David. Not now. The door opened anyway. A man walked in. Tall, 50s, salt and pepper beard, lab coat with coffee stains on the sleeve. Victoria, I need to... He stopped, stared at David. His face went pale. Jesus Christ. David stood up slowly. Hello, James. James Morrison crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed David's shoulders, stared at him like he was seeing a dead man walk. David Chen. Yeah. But we thought nobody knew where... I was in Austin, the whole time. Different job, different life. James turned to Victoria, his voice shaking. Do you know who this is? Do you have any idea who this is? I'm starting to understand. This is David Chen. The David Chen. The man who wrote the core architecture. The man who built the cloud bridging system. The man who... He stopped, looked at David's uniform. The gray fabric. The name tag. The maintenance department logo. David, what the hell are you wearing? My work clothes. Your work. James stepped back. You're working here as what? Maintenance technician. Maintenance. James ran both hands through his hair. You have a PhD from Stanford. You hold 17 patents. Your code runs half the internet. And you're fixing toilets. Printers mostly, and air conditioners. That's not funny. I'm not joking. James looked at Victoria, then back at David, then at Victoria again. Did you know about this? I found out 20 minutes ago. How? Victoria gestured toward the toolbox on the floor. He was carrying that through the lobby. I saw the logo. James looked down, saw the faded words carved into the metal. DC Horizon 2014. He closed his eyes. Oh, David. It's fine, James. It's not fine. Nothing about this is fine. James's voice cracked. I should have fought harder. When Marcus pushed you out, I should have done something, said something. There was nothing you could do. I could have quit. I could have gone public. I could have... You had a family too, kids in college, a mortgage. You did what you had to do. James shook his head. His eyes were wet. 6 years, David. You've been fixing printers in this building for 6 years. Walking past people who use your code every day. And nobody knew. Nobody recognized you. David shrugged. People see what they expect to see. They expected a janitor. That's what they saw. But why? Why put yourself through that? Why come back here at all? David was quiet for a moment. You remember what Michelle used to say about building things that matter? James nodded slowly. She said the point wasn't credit. The point was impact. Right. The point was making something that helped people. Something that lasted. David looked around the office. At the glass walls. The expensive furniture. The Nexus Technologies logo gleaming on every surface. This company helps people, James. Small businesses access enterprise technology. Students in rural areas connect to online courses. Hospitals share data that saves lives. He picked up the toolbox. I built that. Michelle and I built that. And it's still working. Still helping. That matters more than my name on a door. James stared at him. You really believe that? I have to. Why? David's voice was steady. Because if I don't, then Michelle died for nothing. And I can't live with that. Victoria stood up from her desk. I want to see proof. Everything. Documents, photos, whatever you have. David nodded, unlocked his phone, opened a folder labeled 2014-2019. This is everything. Incorporation papers, patent filings, board minutes, photos from the garage. He handed her the phone. Victoria scrolled slowly. Her face changed with each image. David and Michelle at their first investor meeting. David and Michelle celebrating their first major client. Michelle, very pregnant, presenting to a room full of executives. Baby Lily taking her first steps in the Horizon Systems office, surrounded by engineers who had stopped working to watch. The last photo. Michelle in a hospital bed, holding newborn Lily. David beside her, tears streaming down his face, smiling like he'd won the universe. Victoria's hand trembled. She was beautiful. Yes. She looked so happy. She was. We both were. Victoria swiped to the next image. There were no more photos. Just a document. A death certificate. Michelle Thompson Chen. March 3, 2019. Cause of death: traumatic injury sustained in motor vehicle collision. Victoria handed the phone back. Her voice was thick. I believe you. I know. What do you want? David put the phone away, picked up the toolbox. I want to finish my shift. There's a printer on the 7th floor that's been jamming, and a coffee machine in the break room that needs a new heating element. Victoria stared at him. That's it? That's all you want? I want to pick up my daughter at 3:30, help her with her homework, make her dinner, watch a movie together, go to bed knowing she's safe. He headed for the door. That's all I've wanted for 6 years. That's all I want now. Victoria stepped forward. David, wait. He stopped, hand on the door handle. My father was wrong. What he did to you was wrong, and I want to make it right. David turned. His eyes were tired but kind. You can't give me back what I lost, Ms. Hayes. Nobody can. Then let me give you what you deserve. Recognition, compensation. A position that matches your abilities. David smiled, that same sad smile. You know what Michelle told me the night before she died? Victoria shook her head. She said, David, promise me something. Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll be there for Lily. Not just physically there, really there. Present, paying attention, making memories. His voice softened. I promised. And I've kept that promise every single day for 6 years. I've been there for every breakfast, every bedtime story, every nightmare, every fever, every first day of school and every last day, every skinned knee and every broken heart. He opened the door. That's worth more than any job title. That's worth more than any amount of money. That's worth more than having my name on a building. James spoke up. David, does Lily know about any of this? David paused. His jaw tightened. No. She knows her mother was brilliant. She knows her mother loved her, but she doesn't know about the company, about what I gave up. Why? Because I didn't give it up. I traded it. For time. For her. And I'd make that trade 1,000 times over. He stepped into the hallway. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a printer to fix. Victoria watched him walk toward the service elevator. Gray uniform, old toolbox, shoulders slightly hunched from years of physical labor. The man who built an empire. The man who lost everything. The man who chose his daughter over revenge. James came to stand beside her. His voice was quiet. What are you going to do? Victoria didn't answer immediately. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. The lobby video has 200,000 views. Media is calling. What should I tell them? Victoria looked at the text, then at David's retreating figure. "The whole world is about to know who he is," she said. "By tonight, this will be everywhere." James nodded slowly. "Does he know that—" "I don't think he cares." "Then what does he care about?" Victoria thought of the photo on his phone. The last one. Michelle in the hospital bed holding their newborn daughter. David beside her crying with joy. "His daughter," she said. "He cares about his daughter." She pulled out her phone, started typing a reply. "Tell them nothing. I'll handle this personally." Then she opened her contacts, scrolled to a name she hadn't called in years. Robert Hayes, her father's personal attorney, the man who had drafted the buyout agreement, the man who knew exactly what Marcus Hayes had done to David Chen. Time to find out what else her father had buried. Down in the service elevator, David leaned against the wall. His hands were shaking. He'd held it together in the office, kept his voice steady, kept his face calm. But now, alone, the mask was cracking. He thought about Lily, sitting in her chemistry class right now. Probably bored. Probably doodling in her notebook. Probably thinking about what she wanted for dinner. She had no idea. No idea that her father had once been on magazine covers. No idea that he'd built a company worth millions. No idea that he'd given it all up so he could be home when she got off the school bus. David looked at his phone, at the lock screen. Lily's face laughing at something he'd said. She looked so much like Michelle it hurt. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened. David straightened up, wiped his eyes, put the mask back on. He had a printer to fix, and a daughter to pick up at 3:30. Nothing else mattered. But as he walked through the service corridor, his phone buzzed. A text from his mother. "David, call me, now." Then another text. Someone posted a video. Lily saw it. She's asking questions. David stopped walking. His heart stopped beating. She knows something is wrong. What do I tell her? David stared at the screen. 6 years of protection. 6 years of careful lies. 6 years of shielding his daughter from the truth about who her father used to be. All of it crumbling. Because of a toolbox. Because of a logo. Because he couldn't just throw away the last piece of what he and Michelle had built together. His hands shook as he typed back. "Don't tell her anything. I'm coming home." He shoved the phone in his pocket, looked at the toolbox in his hand, the faded words carved into the metal. DC Horizon 2014. Michelle's voice echoed in his memory. "Promise me you'll be there for her. Really there." David gripped the toolbox tighter. He'd kept that promise for 6 years, but he'd never promised to tell her the truth. And now the truth was coming whether he was ready or not. David didn't wait for the elevator. He pushed through the service door and took the stairs 2 at a time. His toolbox banged against his leg with every step. The sound echoed through the concrete stairwell like a heartbeat. His phone buzzed again. Another text from his mother. "She's crying, David. She won't tell me why, just keeps looking at her phone." David's chest tightened. He hit the ground floor and burst through the exit into the parking garage. His old Honda Civic sat in the far corner wedged between 2 BMWs that probably cost more than his annual salary. He threw the toolbox in the back seat and started the engine. 3:47 p.m. Lily would have been home from school for almost an hour. He pulled out of the garage and merged onto Congress Avenue. Traffic was thick. Austin rush hour starting early. David gripped the steering wheel and tried to breathe. 6 years. For 6 years he had kept this secret. Had built a wall between his past and his present. Had created a new identity, not out of shame, but out of necessity. Lily didn't need to know her father had once been important. She didn't need to carry the weight of what he'd lost. She just needed a dad who was there. A dad who showed up. A dad who put her first. That's what Michelle would have wanted. His phone rang through the car speakers. "Mom." He hit answer. "David, where are you?" 20 minutes away, what's happening?" His mother's voice was strained. I don't know. She came home from school and went straight to her room. I heard her crying. When I knocked, she said she wanted to be alone. Did she say anything about a video? What video? David's jaw clenched. Someone filmed me at work today. It might be online. Filmed you doing what? It's complicated, Mom. I'll explain when I get there. David. His mother's voice sharpened. What's going on? What aren't you telling me? I have to go. I'll be there soon. He hung up before she could ask more questions. The traffic light turned red. David stopped, his fingers drumming against the wheel. His reflection stared back at him from the rearview mirror. Gray hair, tired eyes, the face of a man who had aged 20 years in 6. He thought about the lobby this morning. Victoria Hayes grabbing his arm, the security guards closing in, the phones recording everything. He thought about what he'd said. Your father stole it from me the week my wife died. Those words were probably everywhere by now. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Wherever people went to watch strangers' lives fall apart. And Lily had seen it. His 15-year-old daughter, who thought her father was just a maintenance man, had seen a video of him confronting a CEO, claiming he'd built the company, talking about her mother's death. David closed his eyes. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. The light turned green. He pressed the gas and drove toward home. The house was small, a 2-bedroom rental in a quiet neighborhood near Lily's school. They'd moved here 4 years ago after the apartment got too cramped. David had scraped together enough for the security deposit by working overtime for 3 months straight. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. David pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. He sat there for a moment staring at the front door, trying to figure out what to say. He'd rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in his head. The day Lily would find out. The day he'd have to explain why her father, who had a PhD from Stanford, spent his days fixing broken printers. He'd always imagined he'd have more time. He got out of the car and walked to the door. His mother opened it before he could reach for the handle. Susan Chen was 72 years old. Small, silver-haired, sharp-eyed. She'd moved to Austin 3 years ago to help with Lily, and she'd never left. She's in her room, Susan said quietly. She won't come out. Did she say anything? Just that she needed to think. David nodded, started toward the hallway. His mother grabbed his arm. David, what is this about? What happened today? He looked at her, at the worry etched into her face, at the questions she'd been holding back for years. I'll tell you everything, he said, but I need to talk to Lily first. Susan hesitated, then nodded and let him go. David walked down the hallway. His footsteps were quiet on the carpet. He stopped outside Lily's door, raised his hand to knock. Then he heard it. Crying, soft, muffled crying, the kind you make when you're trying not to be heard. David's heart shattered. He knocked gently. Lily, it's Dad. Can I come in? Silence. Then, go away. Lily, please. We need to talk. I don't want to talk to you. I know you saw something online. I know you're confused. Just let me explain. The door flew open. Lily stood there, her eyes red and swollen, her cheeks wet with tears. She was holding her phone, the screen still glowing. Explain. Her voice cracked. Explain what? Explain why you've been lying to me my entire life. Lily. Is it true? She held up the phone. On the screen was a paused video. David could see himself in the frame standing in the lobby, Victoria Hayes inches from his face. Did you really build that company? Did you really know Mom? David's throat tightened. Yes. Did she really work there with you? Yes. Then why? Lily's voice broke completely. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me think you were just a janitor? Maintenance technician, David said softly. This isn't funny. I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Lily threw her phone onto the bed. Her hands were shaking. Do you know what it was like watching that video? Seeing you stand there and say those things, everyone at school was sharing it. Everyone was asking if that was really my dad. David reached for her. Lily. She stepped back. Don't touch me right now. David lowered his hand. His eyes burned. I was going to tell you, he said. When you were older. When you could understand. Understand what? That my dad used to be some kind of genius, that he built a company worth millions, that he gave it all up to what fix toilets. I gave it up for you. Lily froze. What? David took a breath. Let it out slowly. After your mom died, I couldn't function. I couldn't work. I couldn't think. All I could do was hold you and cry. He leaned against the doorframe, suddenly exhausted. Marcus Hayes, Victoria's father. He came to me 12 days after the funeral. He told me to sign over my shares. He told me to take the money and go home. He told me it was what your mother would have wanted. And you believed him. I didn't care about believing him. I just wanted out. I wanted to stop. I wanted to go home and be with you. Lily's jaw trembled. So you just gave up everything you built? Everything Mom built? I traded it. For time. For you. I didn't ask you to do that. You were 2 years old, Lily. You couldn't ask for anything. You just kept looking at the door and saying, Mommy's coming home, over and over. Every night. Lily sat down on the bed. Her legs seemed to give out beneath her. I don't remember that. I know, you were too young. I don't remember her at all. David's voice cracked. I know. They sat in silence. The clock on Lily's wall ticked. Outside, a car drove past. Normal sounds. Normal life. Continuing as if nothing had changed. Finally, Lily spoke. Her voice was small. Why didn't you go back? After I got older. Why didn't you start another company? David sighed. Because every time I tried to code, I saw her. Every time I opened a laptop, I thought about the garage where we built Horizon. Every time someone said prototype or algorithm, I remembered her voice, her laugh, the way she'd fall asleep on my shoulder during late-night debugging sessions. He wiped his eyes. I couldn't do it, Lily. The pain was too much, so I found something else. Something that didn't remind me of her. Fixing printers. Yeah, fixing printers. And air conditioners. And lights. Things that didn't require me to think too hard. Things that left me enough energy to come home and be your dad. Lily looked up at him. Her eyes were still wet, but something in them had shifted. You gave up your whole career, for me. I gave up a job, Lily. You're not a job. You're my daughter. You're the best thing your mother and I ever made. Lily's chin quivered. Dad? I know I should have told you sooner. I know I should have been honest. But I wanted you to have a normal life. I wanted you to grow up without the weight of what we lost. I wanted you to just be a kid. I'm 15. You're still a kid to me. Lily laughed, a wet, broken laugh. The kind that's halfway to crying. That's such a dad thing to say. Well, I am your dad. She stood up, crossed the room, and wrapped her arms around him. David held her tight, tighter than he'd held anything in years. He buried his face in her hair and let the tears come. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Dad. No, it's not. I lied to you. For years. You protected me. That's different. David pulled back, looked at her face, Michelle's eyes, Michelle's cheekbones, Michelle's stubborn jaw. You look so much like her, he said. Lily's eyes filled with fresh tears. Really? Every day a little more. She hugged him again, and this time she didn't let go. They sat on Lily's bed side by side, backs against the wall. David had her phone in his hand, scrolling through the video that had started everything. 2 million views, he said quietly, in 4 hours. It's all anyone's talking about. at Maintenance Man CEO is trending. Of course it is. Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. What are you going to do? I don't know. Victoria Hayes seemed pretty intense. She didn't know about what her father did. She looked like she wanted to throw up when I told her. Do you think she'll try to make it right? David shrugged. I don't know what right looks like anymore. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, Dad. Yeah. Tell me about Mom. David's heart clenched. What do you want to know? Everything. What was she like? How did you meet? What did she sound like when she laughed? David closed his eyes. Let the memories wash over him. Memories he'd kept locked away for years. We met at Stanford, he said. First week of graduate school. She was in the computer science lab at 3 a.m., arguing with a vending machine. Lily smiled. Arguing with a vending machine. It ate her dollar. She was explaining to it very calmly, very logically, why it was morally obligated to give her the Snickers bar she'd paid for. Did it work? No, so she hacked it. She hacked a vending machine. Reprogrammed the whole thing. By the time she was done, it was giving out free candy to everyone in the building. Lily laughed. A real laugh this time. That's amazing. That was your mother. She couldn't stand injustice, even from machines. When did you know you loved her? David thought about it. About 30 seconds after I met her. She turned around and saw me watching, and she said, if you tell anyone about this, I'll hack your email and sign you up for every spam list on the internet. Romantic. It was, actually. She had this look in her eyes. This fire. I'd never seen anything like it. David's voice softened. She was brilliant, Lily. Not just smart brilliant. She could see solutions nobody else could see. She could look at a problem and immediately know 3 different ways to solve it. Like you? No, I'm methodical. I work through things step by step. Your mother was intuitive. She just knew. It's what made us such a good team. Lily pulled her knees up to her chest. I wish I remembered her. You have pieces of her. The way you tilt your head when you're thinking. The way you laugh. The way you get stubborn when you know you're right. I'm not stubborn. You argued with your math teacher for 20 minutes last week about the proper use of the quadratic formula. Because I was right. David smiled. See, just like her. They sat in silence for a while. The afternoon light faded. The room grew dim. Dad? Yeah. What was she doing the night she died? David's smile faded. She was coming home from work. There was a product launch the next day. Big presentation. She'd been at the office for 16 hours. Why didn't she stay over? Because it was your birthday week. She'd promised to be home every night to tuck you in. Lily's voice was barely audible. She died because of me. No. David turned to face her. No, Lily. She died because a drunk driver ran a red light. That's the only reason. The only one. But if she'd stayed at work, then she would have missed tucking you in, and she never would have done that. Never. But, listen to me. David took her hands. Your mother loved you more than anything in this world. More than the company. More than her career. More than her own life. She was coming home to you because that's where she wanted to be. Lily's tears spilled over. I just wish I could remember her. You don't have to remember her to know her. You carry her with you, in everything you do, in everything you are. David reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet. Inside, behind his driver's license, was an old photograph. He handed it to Lily. Michelle in the hospital bed. Newborn Lily in her arms, both of them glowing. This was the day you were born, David said. She held you for 3 hours straight. Wouldn't let anyone else touch you. She kept saying, look at her, David. Look what we made. Lily stared at the photo. Her fingers trembled. She's beautiful. Yes? I have her nose. You have her everything. Lily pressed the photo to her chest. Can I keep this? It's always been yours. I was just holding it for you." Susan appeared in the doorway. Her face was etched with concern. "David, there's someone at the door." "Who?" "A woman. Says she's from Nexus Technologies." David stood up. His heart started pounding again. "Stay here," he told Lily. "Dad, I'll be right back." He walked down the hallway, through the living room, to the front door. Victoria Hayes stood on his porch. She'd changed clothes since this morning. Gone was the power suit and the razor-sharp ponytail. She wore jeans, a simple blouse. Her hair was down. She looked almost human. "How did you find my address?" David asked. "HR file. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced." "What do you want?" Victoria took a breath. "Can we talk? We talked this morning." "I know, but things have changed." "Changed how?" Victoria pulled out her phone, showed him the screen, news headlines scrolling past. Tech CEO confronted by former founder. Working as janitor, the heartbreaking story behind the viral maintenance man. Video. Did Nexus Technologies steal a grieving father's company? David stared at the headlines. His stomach dropped. "It's everywhere," Victoria said. "Every news outlet, every social media platform. My board has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning." "That's not my problem. I know. But I'm making it my responsibility." She held his gaze. "I found something, David. In my father's files. Something you need to see." David hesitated, looked back toward the hallway. Lily was standing there watching. "Dad, is everything okay?" David turned back to Victoria. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of my daughter." Victoria glanced at Lily. Something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or guilt. "All right," she said. "Can I come in?" David stepped aside. Victoria walked into his living room. She looked around at the modest furniture, the family photos on the walls, the evidence of a simple, careful life. Lily came to stand beside David. Her hand found his. "Lily," David said, "this is Victoria Hayes. She's the CEO of the company I used to run." Lily's eyes narrowed. "The one whose dad stole everything from you?" Victoria flinched. "Yes." "And you're here because—" "Because I found out my father did more than steal a company." She opened her bag and pulled out a manila folder. "What is that?" David asked. Victoria set the folder on the coffee table. "It's the original buyout agreement, the one you signed in 2019. I've seen it." "Have you—" "All of it?" David frowned. "What do you mean?" Victoria opened the folder. Inside were a stack of documents. She flipped to the third page. "This is the section on intellectual property rights. When you signed this agreement, you didn't just sell your shares." David's blood went cold. "What? You signed over perpetual rights to any technology code or innovations you developed during your time at Horizon Systems, including anything derived from your original work." "I don't understand." Victoria's voice was steady, but her eyes were pained. "My father's lawyers buried it in the fine print. When you signed this document, you gave up any claim to royalties, licensing fees, or future profits from your own inventions. Forever." David sat down heavily. "How much—" His voice was hoarse. "How much would I have been owed?" Victoria didn't answer immediately. "Ms. Hayes, how much, based on our current licensing agreements and the market value of your core patents—" She paused. "Conservatively, $47 million. The room went silent. Lily's hand tightened on David's. $47 million, she whispered. "Dad." David stared at the document, at the signature in the bottom, his own handwriting, shaky, broken. The signature of a man who didn't care if he lived or died. He'd signed away $47 million. He'd signed away his life's work. And he'd done it because a man told him it was what his dead wife would have wanted. "Dad," Lily's voice was scared. "Are you okay?" David looked up at Victoria. His eyes were dry. His voice was calm. "Get out." "David." Get out of my house. Please, let me explain. Your father sat across from me 12 days after I buried my wife. 12 days. And he looked me in the eye and told me to sign. He knew what was in those documents. He knew what he was taking. David stood up. And you want to tell me now, 6 years later, now that it's all over the internet and your board is panicking, I didn't know. I don't care what you knew. I don't care what you found. I don't care about your guilt or your apologies or your damage control. He pointed at the door. Get out and don't come back. Victoria stood there for a long moment. Her face was pale. Her eyes were wet. Then she picked up the folder. Keep the documents, she said quietly. You should have them. She set them back on the table. I know you don't believe me, but I'm not my father, and I'm going to make this right, whether you want me to or not. She walked to the door, opened it, turned back one last time. Your daughter looks like her mother. David said nothing. Victoria nodded once, and left. The door closed. David stood in the middle of his living room, surrounded by the ruins of everything he thought he knew. $47 million. He could have sent Lily to any college in the world, could have bought a house, could have never worked another day in his life. Instead, he'd spent 6 years fixing printers and counting every penny. Dad? Lily's voice cut through the fog. He looked at her, his beautiful daughter, Michelle's daughter, standing there with fear in her eyes. Are you okay? David took a breath, then another. No, he said honestly. I'm not okay. What are you going to do? He looked at the folder on the table, at the documents that represented everything he'd lost. Then he looked back at his daughter. I'm going to make you dinner. Then I'm going to help you with your homework. Then we're going to watch a movie together. But that's what I'm going to do tonight, Lily. Tomorrow can wait. Lily stared at him. Then slowly she smiled. Can we watch the one about the robot? The one you've seen 15 times? 16. And yes. David smiled back. It was a tired smile. A broken smile. But it was real. Yeah, we can watch the one about the robot. He put his arm around her and walked toward the kitchen. Behind them, the folder sat on the coffee table. $47 million worth of betrayal. Tomorrow, David would have to decide what to do about it. But tonight, he was just a dad making dinner for his daughter. And for now, that was enough. David didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around him. The refrigerator hummed. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Normal sounds. The sounds of a normal life. But nothing felt normal anymore. $47 million. The number kept circling in his head like a vulture. At 3 a.m., he gave up trying to sleep. He got out of bed, walked to the kitchen and made coffee. Then he sat at the table and opened the folder Victoria had left behind. Page after page of legal documents, clauses and subclauses, language designed to confuse, language designed to hide. David had signed every page. He remembered that day. March 15th, 2019. Marcus Hayes sitting across from him in his office. 2 lawyers flanking him like bodyguards. A stack of papers on the desk. Just sign here, David. And here. And here. David hadn't read a single word. He just wanted it to be over. Now 6 years later, he was reading every word. And with each page, the weight in his chest grew heavier. Marcus Hayes hadn't just bought him out. He'd gutted him, stripped him of everything. Every patent, every algorithm, every line of code David had ever written. And buried in the middle, almost invisible, was a non-disclosure agreement. David had promised never to publicly discuss the terms of his departure, never to claim credit for his work, never to speak about Horizon Systems or its founding. He'd broken that promise this morning in the lobby, which meant Nexus Technologies could sue him. David laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. They'd stolen $47 million from him, and they could still sue him for talking about it. Dad. He looked up. Lily stood in the kitchen doorway, wrapped in her mother's old Stanford sweatshirt. What are you doing up? I couldn't sleep. She walked over and sat across from him. What are those legal documents? From when I sold the company. Lily reached for the folder. David didn't stop her. She read for a few minutes. Her face changed as she went. Confusion. Then anger. Then something that looked like heartbreak. They took everything. Yes. And you couldn't fight it. I signed it, Lily. Willingly. They didn't put a gun to my head. You were grieving. You weren't thinking clearly. That has to count for something. David shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. I'm not a lawyer. Then we get a lawyer. We sue them. We get back what's yours. It's not that simple. Why not? David pointed to a paragraph near the end. Non-disclosure agreement. I promised never to talk about this publicly. I broke that promise yesterday. Lily's eyes widened. They can sue you. Technically, yes. That's insane. They steal from you, and then they can sue you for talking about it. Welcome to corporate America. Lily slammed the folder shut. This isn't fair. No, it's not. So, what are we going to do? David looked at his daughter, at the fire in her eyes. Michelle's fire. I don't know yet. We have to do something. I know. Dad, you can't just let them get away with this. I'm not going to let them get away with anything. I just need to think. Lily grabbed his hand. Her grip was fierce. Promise me. Promise me you won't give up. David squeezed back. I promise. His phone buzzed on the table. A text message. He picked it up. Read it. Read it again. Who is it? Lily asked. James Morrison, the CTO at Nexus. What does he want? David showed her the screen. Meet me at Cafe Luna, 8 a.m. Come alone. I have information you need. Lily frowned. Is this a trap? I don't think so. James was always one of the good ones. How do you know you can trust him? David thought about it. About James standing in Victoria's office yesterday. The look on his face when he saw David's uniform, the guilt in his eyes. I don't know, he said honestly, but I think I have to find out. Cafe Luna was a small coffee shop near the university, the kind of place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. David arrived at 7:45 and ordered a black coffee. He sat in the corner, his back to the wall, and waited. James walked in at exactly 8 a.m. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled shirt. His usual lab coat was gone. He ordered at the counter, then made his way to David's table. Thank you for coming. What do you have, James? James sat down, pulled out a laptop, set it on the table between them. I spent all night going through Marcus Hayes's archived files, the ones Victoria doesn't have access to. Why doesn't she have access? Because Marcus locked them before he died. Password protected. Encrypted. He didn't want anyone to see what was inside. But you got in. James smiled grimly. I've been the CTO for 8 years. I know every backdoor in our system. He opened the laptop and turned it toward David. This is an email chain from March 2019 between Marcus Hayes and his lead attorney. David leaned forward, started reading. The first email was dated March 2nd, the day before Michelle died. Re-Horizon Acquisition Strategy, Marcus. As discussed, the optimal time to approach Chen would be immediately following a significant personal crisis. His emotional state will impair his judgment, and he will be more likely to accept unfavorable terms. I recommend preparing the documents in advance so we can move quickly when the opportunity presents itself. Richard David's blood turned to ice. Keep reading, James said quietly. The next email was dated March 4th, the day after Michelle's accident. Richard. The opportunity has arrived sooner than expected. Chen's wife was killed in a car accident last night. Begin preparing the buyout documents. I want them ready within the week. Marcus. David couldn't breathe. They planned it, he whispered. They were waiting for something to happen to me. Not just waiting. Look at the next one. March 10th. Richard Chen is deteriorating rapidly. Sources report he hasn't been to the office in a week. His mother has taken custody of the child. Now is the time to move. Schedule the meeting for the 15th. Also ensure the NDA language is airtight. I don't want him talking about this in 5 years when he realizes what he signed. Marcus. David sat back. His hands were shaking. He knew. He knew exactly what he was doing. It gets worse. James scrolled to another email. March 16th. The day after David signed. Richard, excellent work. Chen signed everything without reading. His mental state was exactly as we predicted. The fool gave away $50 million worth of IP for pocket change. Transfer the initial payment and begin the patent reassignment process. I want his name scrubbed from all documentation within 30 days. Marcus. David closed his eyes. $50 million. Not $47 million. Marcus had bragged about it, and he'd called David a fool. Why are you showing me this? David's voice was hoarse. James closed the laptop. Because I was there, David. I was in the building when Marcus made that deal. I knew something was wrong. I saw how broken you were. And I didn't do anything. His voice cracked. I've carried that guilt for 6 years. Watching you walk through the halls in that maintenance uniform. Watching you fix printers in the building you built. Knowing what Marcus did to you. You couldn't have stopped him. I could have tried. I could have warned you. I could have done something. So why now? Why come forward now? James met his eyes. Because Victoria is different. She's not her father, and she wants to make this right. She came to my house last night. I threw her out. I know. She called me. She was upset. She should be upset. Her father destroyed my life. Yes, he did. But she didn't know. And when she found out, she didn't try to cover it up. She came to you. David shook his head. It doesn't matter. The damage is done. Maybe, maybe not. James leaned forward. David, I'm showing you these emails because they prove fraud. Marcus Hayes deliberately waited until you were mentally incapacitated. He knew you couldn't make a rational decision. He exploited your grief for financial gain. So that contract might be voidable. A good lawyer could argue you signed under duress, that Marcus took advantage of your diminished mental state. David stared at him. Are you serious? I'm not a lawyer, but I know people who are. People who specialize in exactly this kind of case. And you think I have a chance? I think you have more than a chance. I think you have a smoking gun. James tapped the laptop. These emails prove intent. Marcus wasn't just a shrewd businessman. He was a predator, and he put it all in writing. David's mind was racing. For 6 years he'd accepted his fate. Accepted that he'd made a terrible decision and had to live with the consequences. But this was different. This wasn't a bad deal. This was fraud. What about Victoria? He asked. If I sue, I'm suing her company. Victoria knows the risk. She's the one who told me to find these files. She what? After she left your house last night, she called me. She said, James, I need you to find everything my father buried. Everything, no matter how bad it is. James's voice softened. She's not trying to protect herself, David. She's trying to expose the truth, even if it destroys her. David didn't know what to say. He thought about Victoria in the lobby yesterday. The shock on her face, the way she'd grabbed his arm, the way she'd looked at his toolbox. He thought about her standing on his porch last night, the guilt in her eyes, the folder of documents she'd left behind. Why would she do that? He asked. Why risk everything? James smiled sadly. Because she's a better person than her father. and because she believes some things are more important than money. David drove home in a daze. His mind kept replaying the emails. Marcus's cold, calculated words. The opportunity has arrived sooner than expected. Chen's wife was killed in a car accident last night. Begin preparing the buyout documents. Like Michelle's death was just an opportunity. A business advantage to be exploited. David had hated Marcus Hayes for 6 years. But he'd always thought it was just ruthless capitalism. Dog eat dog. Nothing personal. Now he knew the truth. It was personal. Marcus had watched him from a distance, waited for him to fall, then moved in for the kill while David was still kneeling over his wife's grave. David pulled into his driveway and sat there, hands on the wheel, trying to breathe. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. A number he didn't recognize. He answered anyway. Mr. Chen. This is Sarah Walsh from CNN. I was hoping to get a comment about the video that's been circulating online. David hung up. The phone rang again. Different number, different network. He turned the phone off. When he walked inside, his mother was waiting. There are reporters outside, she said. 3 vans. They've been here since this morning. I know, I saw them. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Lily appeared from the hallway. She'd gotten dressed. Her hair was pulled back. She looked determined. I saw the news vans, she said. They're saying you might sue Nexus Technologies. Where did they hear that? It's everywhere, Dad. People are taking your side. #justice for David is trending. David sank onto the couch. I haven't decided anything yet. But you're thinking about it, right after what James showed you. David looked up sharply. How do you know about James? Lily held up her phone. He texted you while you were driving. I saw it come through. You read my texts. You left your phone on the table, and you taught me to be curious. David couldn't help but smile. That's not how that lesson was supposed to work. Lily sat beside him. Dad, what did James show you? David hesitated. He looked at his mother standing in the kitchen doorway, then back at his daughter. Emails, he said finally. From Marcus Hayes, proving he planned to take advantage of me after your mom died. Lily's face hardened. He planned it. He waited for something bad to happen, and when your mom was killed, he moved in. That's evil. Yes. So you're going to sue? I don't know. It's complicated. What's complicated? He stole from you. You have proof. You get a lawyer and you take back what's yours. It's not that simple, Lily. Why not? David took a breath. Because if I sue, it goes public. All of it. Your mother, me, everything we went through. It'll be in the news for months, maybe years. Our whole life on display. Lily's jaw tightened. I don't care. You should care. You're 15. You have school, friends, a life. Do you really want reporters following you around, asking about your dead mother? If it means getting justice, yes. Lily. No, Dad. Listen to me. She grabbed his hands. For 6 years, you've protected me. You gave up everything so I could have a normal life. But this isn't just about me anymore. It's about you. It's about Mom. It's about what's right. Her eyes were fierce. Michelle's eyes. You deserve justice. Mom deserves justice. And if I have to deal with some reporters to make that happen, then that's what I'll do. David stared at his daughter, at the young woman she was becoming. When did you get so brave? He asked quietly. I learned it from you. Susan stepped forward. Her voice was thick with emotion. She's right, David. You've spent 6 years running from this, hiding from it. Maybe it's time to stop running. Mom, Michelle would want you to fight. You know she would. David closed his eyes. He could almost hear Michelle's voice. Don't let them win, David. Don't let them erase us. I need to make a call, he said. He stood up, walked to the back porch, closed the door behind him. Then he turned his phone back on and dialed James Morrison. "David, are you okay?" "I want to do it. I want to sue." Silence on the other end. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm going to do it anyway." What changed? David looked through the window at his daughter, at his mother, at the two people who had stood by him through everything. "My daughter reminded me who I used to be." James exhaled. "All right, I'll set up a meeting with the lawyer I mentioned. Her name is Rebecca Torres. She's the best." "When?" "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Her office is downtown." "I'll be there." "David." "Yeah." "I'm glad you're doing this. You deserve to have your name back." David hung up. He stood on the porch for a long moment, watching the sun set over Austin. The sky was orange and purple, beautiful in a way that hurt. For 6 years he'd lived in the shadows, hidden from his past, hidden from his pain. But you can't hide forever. Eventually the truth finds you. The doorbell rang. David walked back inside. His mother was already at the door, peering through the peephole. "It's her," Susan said. "That woman from last night." "Victoria Hayes." "Yes." David's jaw tightened. What does she want? Should I tell her to leave? David thought about it. About what James had told him. About Victoria risking everything to expose her father's crimes. "No, let her in." Susan opened the door. Victoria stood there looking nothing like the powerful CEO he'd met in the lobby. She looked tired, vulnerable, human. "I know you told me not to come back," she said, "but I need to talk to you, please." David stepped forward. "Come in." They sat in the living room, Victoria on one side, David on the other, Lily and Susan watching from the kitchen doorway. "I read the emails," David said. "James showed them to me." Victoria nodded. "I know, he told me. Your father was a monster." "Yes, he was." "And you still want to help me?" Victoria leaned forward. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. "I love my father. Despite everything. He raised me. He taught me. He made me who I am." She paused. "But what he did to you was unforgivable. And if I try to protect his legacy instead of doing what's right, then I'm no better than him." "So what are you proposing?" Victoria reached into her bag, pulled out another folder. "This is a settlement offer. I had my lawyers draw it up this afternoon." David took the folder, opened it. His eyes went wide. $50 million. Full restoration of your intellectual property rights. Public acknowledgement of your role as founder of Horizon Systems. And a permanent seat on the Nexus Technologies Board of Directors. He looked up. "You're serious?" "Completely." "Why, you could fight this. Drag it out in court for years. Your lawyers would bleed me dry." "I could, but I won't." "Why not?" Victoria stood up, walked to the window. Her voice was quiet. "Because I've spent my whole life trying to live up to my father's image. Trying to be as strong as him. As ruthless as him. As successful as him." She turned to face David. "But I don't want to be him. Not anymore." She walked back and stood in front of him. "You built something incredible, David. You and Michelle. You built something that helps millions of people. And my father stole it from you in your darkest moment." Her voice cracked. "I can't give you back your wife. I can't give you back those 6 years. But I can give you back your name. Your work. Your legacy." She pointed at the folder. "Take the settlement. Don't take the settlement. Sue me. Don't sue me. Whatever you decide, I'll accept it." "Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do." David stared at her. At this woman who had every reason to fight him. Every reason to protect herself. "You're really not like your father," he said. "I'm trying not to be." David looked down at the settlement offer. $50 million. More money than he'd ever imagined. But it wasn't about the money. It never had been. "I have a condition," he said. "Name it." "The main research lab. I want it renamed. The Michelle Chen Innovation Lab." Victoria smiled. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her. "Done. And I want a scholarship fund. For children of all Nexus employees, not just executives. Everyone. Janitors, security guards, maintenance workers, everyone. The Michelle Chen Scholarship Fund. I'll announce it at the board meeting." David nodded slowly. "Then we have a deal." Victoria extended her hand. David shook it, and for the first time in 6 years, he felt something he'd almost forgotten: hope. Lily ran into the room and threw her arms around him. "You did it, Dad. You actually did it." David held her tight. "We did it. Together." Susan was crying. She didn't even try to hide it. "Michelle would be so proud," she said. "So proud of both of you." Victoria watched the family embrace. Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe, or longing. "I should go," she said quietly. "You should celebrate." David released Lily and turned to Victoria. "Stay." "What?" "Stay for dinner. You've earned it." Victoria hesitated. "I don't want to intrude." Lily stepped forward. "You're not intruding. You're the reason my dad got justice. Your father got justice because he deserved it. I just tried to do the right thing." "Then stay and let us thank you." Victoria looked at David. He nodded. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay." That night they ate together. David, Lily, Susan, and Victoria. An unlikely group brought together by tragedy, betrayal, and the long road to redemption. They talked about Michelle, about Horizon Systems, about the early days in the garage when everything seemed possible. Victoria listened, asked questions, laughed at the stories. And somewhere during the meal, David realized something. He'd spent 6 years hating the Hayes family, blaming them for everything he'd lost. But Victoria wasn't her father. She was just a woman trying to break free from a legacy she never asked for. Just like he was a man trying to honor a love that death couldn't erase. After dinner, Victoria left. Lily went to bed. Susan retreated to her room. David sat alone in the living room, holding the settlement papers. $50 million. His name restored. Michelle's legacy protected. It should have felt like victory, but all he felt was tired. A deep, bone-weary exhaustion that had been building for 6 years. He walked to the mantel and picked up the framed photo. Michelle on their wedding day, smiling, radiant, full of life. "We did it," he whispered. "We finally did it." He touched her face through the glass. "I wish you were here. I wish you could see Lily. She's so much like you, strong, brave, stubborn as hell." He laughed softly. "She told me not to give up, just like you would have." He set the photo down. "I'm going to keep my promise, Michelle. I'm going to be there for her. Every day, every moment, until my last breath." He looked out the window at the night sky. "And then I'm coming to find you." The stars twinkled in the darkness. And somewhere, somehow, David felt her answer. "I know, baby. I know." 3 weeks passed. The settlement was signed. The money transferred. The legal documents filed with the state of Texas. David Chen was officially a millionaire. But he still woke up at 6 a.m. every morning. Still made coffee in the same old pot. Still drove the same Honda Civic with the cracked windshield and the check engine light that never went off. Some habits die hard. Lily noticed. "Dad, you know you can buy a new car now, right?" "This one works fine." "The air conditioning broke last summer." "I fixed it. With duct tape." "It works." Lily rolled her eyes. "You're impossible." "I prefer resourceful." They were sitting at the kitchen table, eating breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast. The same breakfast David had made every morning for 6 years. "So," Lily said, pushing her eggs around her plate, "what are you going to do now?" What do you mean? I mean you don't have to work anymore. You could travel, see the world, do whatever you want. David sipped his coffee. I've seen the world. It's overrated. Dad, I'm serious. So am I. Lily set down her fork. You can't just sit around the house all day. I wasn't planning to. Then what were you planning? David was quiet for a moment. He'd been thinking about this for weeks, ever since the settlement was finalized, ever since Victoria Hayes had shaken his hand and told him his name would finally be restored. Victoria offered me a position, he said. Lily's eyebrows shot up. At Nexus, Chief Innovation Officer. My own lab. My own team. Complete creative freedom. Are you going to take it? David looked at his daughter, at the hope in her eyes. I don't know yet. Why not? It's everything you lost, everything you gave up. I know. That's what scares me. Lily reached across the table and took his hand. What are you scared of? David stared at their intertwined fingers. His hands were rough, calloused from years of physical labor, the hands of a maintenance man, not a tech executive. I'm scared I'll lose myself again, he said quietly. I'm scared I'll go back to working 16-hour days, missing dinners, missing your life. That won't happen. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Lily squeezed his hand. Because you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. You know what matters now. You won't forget. How can you be so sure? Lily smiled. Because you're my dad. And you've never broken a promise to me. David's throat tightened. I promised your mother I'd be there for you. And you have been, every day, every moment. But if I take this job, then I'll be proud of you, just like Mom would be. David looked at his daughter, 15 years old, almost a woman, so much like Michelle it made his heart ache. When did you get so wise? He asked. I learned from watching you. David laughed. It was a real laugh, the kind he hadn't heard from himself in years. Okay, he said. I'll think about it. Promise. Promise. The phone call came that afternoon. David was in the garage sorting through boxes of old documents, stuff he hadn't looked at in years, tax returns, bank statements, photos from the early days of Horizon Systems. His phone buzzed, Victoria's name on the screen. Hello. David, I need you to come to the office. Her voice was tense, strained in a way he'd never heard before. What's wrong? I can't explain over the phone. Just, please, come now. She hung up. David stared at the phone. His gut told him something was very wrong. He grabbed his keys and drove. The Nexus Technologies building looked the same as always, glass and steel reaching toward the sky, the morning sun glinting off 1,000 windows. But when David walked through the lobby, everything felt different. The employees wouldn't look at him. They kept their heads down, hurrying past, avoiding eye contact. Something had happened. He took the elevator to the 15th floor. Victoria's assistant met him at the door. Mr. Chen, she's waiting for you. David walked into Victoria's office. She was standing by the window, her back to him. Her shoulders were rigid, her hands clasped behind her back. Victoria. She turned around. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. Close the door. David closed it. What's going on? Victoria walked to her desk, picked up a folder, held it against her chest like a shield. There's something I need to tell you. Something I just found out. About what? About your wife. About Michelle. David's blood went cold. What about her? Victoria's hands trembled. She opened the folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper. This morning I received an anonymous package. It was sent to my personal address. Inside was this document. She handed it to him. David looked at it. A police report. Dated March 3, 2019. The night Michelle died. He'd seen this report before, or so he thought. But as he read it, he realized something was different. There was an additional page, a supplementary investigation report that had never been included in the original file. His eyes scanned the words. Vehicle identification, 2018, Mercedes-Benz S-Class, registered owner, Hayes Family Trust driver, Marcus Hayes. David stopped breathing. What is this? Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. Keep reading. Blood alcohol content at scene 0, 14%. Driver fled scene before police arrival. Investigation terminated per order of Chief Williams, March 5, 2019. Reason: insufficient evidence. The paper fell from David's hands. No. David. No. This can't be real. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. David's legs gave out. He collapsed into the chair behind him. Marcus Hayes. The man who had stolen his company. The man who had exploited his grief. The man who had looked him in the eye 12 days after Michelle's death and told him to sign away his life's work. That man had killed Michelle. The drunk driver, David whispered. It was him. It was your father. Victoria was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I found out an hour ago. I called the Austin Police Department. They confirmed the report is authentic. He killed her, and then he covered it up. The chief of police at the time was on my father's payroll. He buried the investigation. David's hands clenched into fists. His whole body was shaking. He sat across from me. 12 days later, he sat across from me and told me to sign the papers. He told me it was what Michelle would have wanted. David, he killed her. David slammed his fist on the desk. He killed her, and then he stole everything from me. He looked me in the eye and he lied. Victoria flinched, but she didn't step back. I know, and I'm so sorry. Sorry. David laughed, a horrible broken sound. Your father murdered my wife. Sorry doesn't begin to cover it. I know it doesn't. Nothing I say can make this right. Then why tell me? Why show me this? Victoria wiped her eyes. Her voice steadied. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because my father is dead, but his victims are still alive. You. Your daughter. Everyone he hurt. She picked up the folder. There's more. The anonymous package included other documents. Evidence that my father paid off witnesses. Bribed officials. Destroyed records. Who sent it? I don't know, but whoever it was, they wanted this to come out. David stood up. His legs were unsteady, but his voice was firm. I want everything, every document, every record, everything you have. It's yours. And I want the police chief, the one who buried the investigation. He retired 3 years ago, lives in Florida now. I don't care where he lives. I want him held accountable. Victoria nodded. I'll hire investigators, lawyers, whatever it takes. Why are you helping me? Victoria met his eyes. The tears were still there, but underneath was something harder, something resolved. Because my father was a murderer, and I won't let his crimes stay buried. David drove home in a daze. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. His vision blurred. The road in front of him seemed unreal. Marcus Hayes had killed Michelle. The thought kept circling in his head over and over like a song stuck on repeat. He'd spent 6 years grieving a random tragedy. A drunk driver running a red light. Wrong place, wrong time. Terrible luck. But it wasn't random. It was the man who had stolen his company. The man who had destroyed his life. The man whose daughter now ran the empire built on David's work. By the time David pulled into his driveway, he was shaking so badly he could barely turn off the engine. Lily was waiting at the door. "Dad? What's wrong? You look... Where's your grandmother?" "In the kitchen." "Dad? What happened?" David walked past her, through the living room, into the kitchen where Susan was washing dishes. "Mom!" Susan turned around. Her smile faded the moment she saw his face. "David, what is it? Sit down, both of you." Lily followed him in. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd eaten breakfast that morning. The same table where David had promised to think about Victoria's job offer, a lifetime ago. "Dad, you're scaring me." David took a breath. His whole body was trembling. "I found out something today, about your mother's accident." Susan's face went pale. "What about it?" "It wasn't an accident, and it wasn't a random drunk driver." "What do you mean?" David looked at his daughter, at his mother, at the two people he loved most in the world. It was Marcus Hayes, Victoria's father. He was driving the car that killed Michelle. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Lily's face went white. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "What?" "He was drunk. He ran a red light. He hit your mother's car and fled the scene. Then he paid off the police chief to bury the investigation." Susan's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." 12 days later, he showed up at my office. He told me to sign over my shares. He told me to take the money and go home to my daughter. David's voice cracked. He looked me in the eye, the man who had just killed my wife. And he told me it was what Michelle would have wanted. Lily stood up so fast her chair fell over. "I'm going to kill him." "He's already dead. Heart attack 3 years ago." "Then I'll dig him up and kill him again." "Lily, no." Tears were streaming down her face. "He killed Mom. He stole Dad's company. He ruined our lives. And he just died. He just got to die peacefully without ever paying for what he did. I know. I know it's not fair. It's not just not fair. It's evil. It's the most evil thing I've ever heard." Susan spoke up. Her voice was shaking. "How did you find out?" "Victoria, she received an anonymous package with the evidence. She called me this morning." "And she just told you, her own father?" "She didn't know. She was as shocked as I was." Lily laughed bitterly. "Oh, she didn't know. How convenient." "I believe her, Lily." "Why her family has done nothing but hurt us?" "Because she didn't have to tell me. She could have destroyed the evidence, could have kept it buried. Instead, she gave me everything." "She's probably just trying to cover her own ass. Make sure you don't sue her." "The settlement is already signed. She has nothing to gain from telling me." Lily shook her head. "I don't trust her." "You don't have to, but I do." Susan reached across the table and took David's hand. "What are you going to do?" David looked at her, at the woman who had lost her daughter-in-law, who had helped raise her granddaughter, who had watched her son fall apart and slowly, painfully put himself back together. "I'm going to find out everything," he said. "Everyone who helped cover this up, everyone who knew, and I'm going to make sure they face justice. Even if it takes years. Even if it takes the rest of my life." Susan nodded slowly. "Michelle would want that." "I know." Lily sat back down. Her tears had stopped, replaced by something harder, something colder. "I want to help." "Lily. I'm not a little girl anymore, Dad. She was my mother. I have a right to be part of this." David looked at his daughter, at the steel in her eyes, Michelle's steel. "Okay," he said. "We'll do this together." The next morning, David met with Victoria and a team of lawyers. They spread the documents across a conference table: police reports, bank records, email correspondence, a paper trail of corruption that stretched back 7 years. Marcus Hayes hadn't just covered up Michelle's death. He'd built an entire system of bribery and intimidation. Police officers, judges, city officials. Anyone who could have exposed him had been paid off or threatened into silence. Rebecca Torres, the lead attorney, shook her head as she reviewed the files. This is extensive. Hayes must have spent millions keeping this quiet. Can we prosecute? David asked. Hayes is dead. We can't prosecute a dead man, but we can go after his accomplices. The former police chief, the witnesses who took bribes, the officials who helped bury the investigation. What about civil suits? Against who Hayes's estate has already been distributed. Most of it went to Victoria. David looked at Victoria. She sat at the end of the table, her face pale but determined. I'll pay whatever it takes, she said. Whatever the legal fees, whatever the settlements. I'll cover it all. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. That could be tens of millions. I don't care. Ms. Hayes, I need to advise you that this could destroy your company's reputation. If this becomes public, I want it to become public. I want everyone to know what my father did. Rebecca stared at her. You're serious? Completely. David spoke up. Victoria, you don't have to do this. It's not your debt to pay. Yes, it is. Victoria's voice was firm. I inherited everything my father built. His money, his company, his legacy. That means I inherited his sins too. But, no buts, David. I've spent my whole life benefiting from what my father did. From the company he stole from you. From the life he took from Michelle. She stood up, walked to the window. When I was a little girl, my father told me that business was war, that the only thing that mattered was winning, that compassion was weakness. She turned to face him. I believed him. For years I believed him. I built my career on his principles. I stepped on people. I crushed competitors. I did whatever it took to win. Her voice cracked. But then I saw you in that lobby. A man in a maintenance uniform carrying an old toolbox. A man who had every reason to hate me. And you just stood there, calm, dignified, telling the truth. She walked back to the table. In that moment, I realized that my father was wrong. Winning isn't everything. Being able to look at yourself in the mirror is everything. She sat down. So yes, I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to expose my father's crimes, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to undo the damage he caused. The room was silent. Rebecca cleared her throat. Well, I suppose we should get started then. The investigation took 6 months. David worked alongside Victoria and the legal team reviewing documents, interviewing witnesses, building a case against everyone who had helped Marcus Hayes cover up Michelle's death. The former police chief was the first to fall. He was arrested at his home in Florida and charged with obstruction of justice, bribery, and conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. He pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. 3 other officers were indicted. 2 city officials resigned in disgrace. A judge was removed from the bench. The story made national news. #Justice. For Michelle trended for days. Journalists called David a hero. Talk shows wanted interviews. Book publishers offered deals. David turned them all down. I'm not doing this for fame, he told Victoria. I'm doing this for Michelle. I know, but people want to hear your story. Then let them hear it when it's finished, not before. Victoria nodded. Fair enough. They were sitting in her office. It was late. The building was empty. Just the 2 of them and the files spread across her desk. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Sure. Do you hate me? David looked at her. At the woman who had once seemed like his enemy, who had turned out to be his greatest ally. No. Why not? After everything my family did to you. Because you're not your family. You're you. Victoria's eyes glistened. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, but I'm giving it anyway. Why? David thought about the question, about 6 years of grief and anger and bitterness, about the hatred he'd carried like a stone in his chest. Because holding on to anger is exhausting, he said. And I'm tired. I've been tired for a long time. He leaned back in his chair. Your father took enough from me. I'm not going to let him take my peace, too. Victoria wiped her eyes. Thank you, David. For what? For being a better person than I probably would have been. David smiled. I had a good teacher. Who? Michelle. She always said that kindness was strength, that forgiveness was power. I didn't understand it when she was alive, but I think I'm starting to now. Victoria nodded slowly. She sounds amazing. She was. She really was. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Victoria spoke again. The board approved your position, Chief Innovation Officer. The lab will be ready next month. I know. I got the email. Are you going to accept? David had been thinking about this for weeks. Ever since Lily had told him she'd be proud of him. Ever since he'd promised to consider it. Yes, he said. I'm going to accept. Victoria's face lit up. Really? On one condition. Name it. I leave at 3:30 every day. No exceptions. No emergencies. No, just one more meeting. 3:30. I'm out the door. Victoria laughed. That's it. That's it. David, you could ask for anything. Stock options, a corner office, a private jet. I don't want any of that. I just want to be home when my daughter gets there. Victoria shook her head. You really are something else. Is that a yes? Yes. It's a yes. They shook hands. And for the first time in 7 years, David Chen felt like himself again. Not the broken man who had signed away his company. Not the invisible janitor who had walked through this building unnoticed. But the person he'd always been underneath the grief and the pain and the years of hiding. A father, an innovator, a man who knew what mattered. And he was finally ready to start building again. That night, David came home and found Lily waiting for him. Well, she asked, did you accept? I accepted. Lily threw her arms around him. I'm so proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of you too, kiddo. For what? For believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Lily pulled back. Her eyes were shining. Mom would be so happy right now. You think so? I know so. David looked at his daughter, at the young woman who had inherited her mother's fire and his stubbornness, who had stood by him through the darkest days and pushed him to fight when he wanted to give up. I love you, Lily. I love you too, Dad. They stood there holding each other in the small house that had been their refuge for 6 years. Tomorrow, everything would change. David would return to the tech world. His name would be restored. His legacy would finally be recognized. But tonight, he was just a father, holding his daughter, grateful for everything they still had. And somewhere he knew Michelle was watching. Smiling. Finally at peace. 5 years later. The Michelle Chen Innovation Lab occupied the entire 12th floor of Nexus Technologies. 3,000 square feet of cutting-edge equipment, collaborative workspaces, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Austin skyline. David stood at the entrance, watching his team work. 23 engineers, 12 researchers, a dozen interns from universities across the country. All of them focused on a single goal, making technology accessible to everyone. It had been his dream once. His and Michelle's. Back in that tiny Seattle apartment surrounded by takeout containers and energy drinks and the stubborn belief that 2 people could change the world. Now it was real. Mr. Chen. David turned. A young woman stood behind him, tablet in hand. Sarah, his executive assistant. The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. I know. And your daughter called. She said to remind you about dinner tonight. David smiled. I remember. She also said, and I quote, if he's late again, I'm eating his dessert. That sounds like her. David looked at his watch. 2:47 p.m. 43 minutes until his self-imposed departure time. Tell the board I'll be there in 5 minutes. And tell my daughter her dessert is safe." Sarah nodded and walked away. David took one last look at the lab, at the engineers hunched over their screens, at the whiteboard covered in equations and flowcharts, at the prototype sitting on the center table, a small device that would bring high-speed internet to rural schools across America. Michelle's dream finally coming true. He turned and headed for the elevator. The board meeting was routine: quarterly projections, market analysis, strategic partnerships. The kind of corporate discussion that David had once lived for and now merely tolerated. Victoria sat at the head of the table leading the meeting with the confidence of someone who had finally grown into her role. She was 37 now, still sharp, still driven, but with a warmth that hadn't been there 5 years ago. She caught David's eye and smiled. He nodded back. They had become friends over the years. Not close friends, too much history for that, but something real. Something built on mutual respect and shared purpose. When the meeting ended, Victoria caught up with him in the hallway. "Got a minute?" "2, actually. Then I have to leave. Lily's dinner. She's making her grandmother's recipe. If I'm late, I don't get fed." Victoria laughed. "She's tough. She gets it from her mother." They walked together toward the elevator. "The board approved your proposal," Victoria said. "The scholarship fund is expanding. We'll be covering tuition for 500 students next year." "That's good news. It was your idea." "It was Michelle's idea. I just made it happen." Victoria stopped walking. "David." He turned. "Yeah. I want you to know something. These past 5 years, working with you, it's changed me. Changed the company. Changed everything." Victoria. "Let me finish. When I found out what my father did, I wanted to burn it all down. The company. The legacy. Everything. I thought there was no way to make it right." Her eyes glistened. "But you showed me another way. You showed me that redemption isn't about destroying the past. It's about building something better in its place." David didn't know what to say. "Thank you," Victoria said, "for giving me a chance, for trusting me when you had every reason not to." David thought about the journey they'd taken, the anger, the betrayal, the slow, painful process of healing. "You earned it," he said finally. "Every bit of it." Victoria nodded, wiped her eyes quickly like she didn't want him to see. "Go, your daughter's waiting." David smiled. "See you tomorrow, Victoria." "See you tomorrow, David." He stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. And for a moment, just a moment, he thought he heard Michelle's voice. "You did good, baby. You did so good." The drive home took 17 minutes. David pulled into the driveway at exactly 3:28 p.m., 2 minutes ahead of schedule. The house was different now. Not the small rental they'd lived in for years, but a real home. 4 bedrooms, a backyard with a garden, a porch where he could sit and watch the sunset. He'd bought it 3 years ago after the settlement money had finally started to feel real. Lily had picked out the color of her room, a deep purple that Michelle would have loved, and Susan had planted roses along the front walk. Home. David walked through the front door. "I'm here." Kitchen. Lily's voice rang out. He found her standing over the stove, stirring something that smelled incredible. She was 20 now, a junior at Stanford studying computer science, home for the summer. "You're early," she said without turning around. "I'm always early." "You were late last Tuesday." "Traffic." "Excuses." David walked over and kissed her forehead. "What are we having?" "Grandma's pot roast, the one with the carrots and potatoes. Your grandmother's not here. She went to her book club, said to save her some." David leaned against the counter, watching his daughter cook. She moved with confidence now, the same way Michelle used to move, like she knew exactly what she was doing and didn't need anyone's approval. "How's school?" he asked. Fine. Class is going well? Dad, you ask me this every time I come home. And you give me the same vague answer every time. Lily smiled. I'm getting an A in my algorithms class. Happy. Very. I also got accepted into the summer research program, the one at the AI lab. David's eyebrows shot up. You didn't tell me that. I'm telling you now. Lily, that's incredible. I know. She turned to face him, wooden spoon in hand. But I wanted to ask you something first. Anything. The research is on cloud computing systems, specifically adaptive bridging technology for underserved communities. David went still. I know. It's the same thing you and Mom worked on. Lily set down the spoon. I've been reading about Horizon Systems, the original architecture, the patents, the papers you published back in 2015 and 2016. Where did you find those? The company archives. Victoria gave me access. David didn't know what to say. He'd kept so much of that history from Lily, not out of shame, but out of a desire to let her forge her own path, to not weigh her down with his legacy. But she'd found it anyway. What did you think? He asked quietly. Lily's eyes softened. I think you and Mom were geniuses. I think you were ahead of your time, and I think I want to continue what you started. David's throat tightened. Lily. I'm not doing it because I feel obligated. I'm doing it because I believe in it, the same way you did, the same way Mom did. She stepped closer. You always said that the point wasn't credit. The point was impact, making something that helped people, something that lasted. She took his hand. I want to do that, Dad. I want to build something that matters, something Mom would be proud of. David looked at his daughter, at the woman she had become. Brilliant, determined, full of the same fire that had burned in Michelle. She'd be so proud of you, he said. She'd be so incredibly proud. You think so. I know so. Lily hugged him, tight, the way she used to when she was little. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. They stood there for a long moment. Father and daughter, two survivors of a storm that had nearly destroyed them both. Then Lily pulled back and wiped her eyes. The pot roast is going to burn. Then we'd better eat it. She laughed, and in that laugh David heard Michelle, heard the joy that had once filled their apartment, heard the future they had dreamed about together. It was still here, changed, transformed, but still alive. After dinner they sat on the porch. The sun was setting over Austin, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air was warm. Crickets chirped in the garden. Dad? Yeah. Tell me about the day I was born. David smiled. I've told you that story 100 times. Tell me again. He leaned back in his chair. Let the memories wash over him. It was September 15th, 2019. Your mother had been in labor for 18 hours. She was exhausted. I was terrified. The doctors kept saying everything was fine, but I couldn't stop pacing. Lily pulled her knees up to her chest, listening. Finally, at 3:47 a.m. you arrived. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, a full head of dark hair. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. What did Mom say? She held you in her arms and looked at me with tears in her eyes. And she said, look at her, David. Look what we made. Lily's voice was soft. I wish I remembered her. You carry her with you, in everything you do. Do I really look like her? More every day. Your eyes, your smile, the way you tilt your head when you're thinking. Lily was quiet for a moment. Do you still miss her? David looked out at the sunset. Every single day. Does it ever get easier? No, it just gets different. The pain doesn't go away. It becomes part of you, like a scar that aches when it rains. That sounds terrible. It's not. The pain is a reminder. A reminder that I loved someone so much that losing her nearly destroyed me. That's not terrible. That's beautiful. Lily reached over and took his hand. I'm glad you didn't give up. I almost did, so many times. What stopped you? David turned to look at her. You. You were the reason I got out of bed every morning. The reason I kept going when I wanted to quit. The reason I'm still here. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Dad? I made a promise to your mother. The night before she died. I promised I'd be there for you. Every day. Every moment. No matter what. He squeezed her hand. I've tried to keep that promise. I know I haven't been perfect. I know I've made mistakes. But I've always tried. You didn't make mistakes, Dad. You were there. Every breakfast, every dinner, every school play and basketball game and late-night homework session. You were there. I was there because I wanted to be. Because being your father is the greatest privilege of my life. Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. Mom would be proud of you. You think so? I know so. You kept your promise. You raised me. You fought for justice. You rebuilt your career. You did everything she would have wanted. David looked up at the sky. The first stars were appearing. I hope she knows, wherever she is. I hope she knows I tried. She knows Dad. She's always known. They sat there in silence, watching the stars come out one by one. Father and daughter. Survivor and hope. Past and future intertwined. 1 year later, David stood in the auditorium of Stanford University watching his daughter walk across the stage. Lily Chen, Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering, summa cum laude. The crowd applauded. David's hands hurt from clapping so hard. Beside him, Susan wiped tears from her eyes. She did it, Susan whispered. Our girl did it. She did. Victoria sat on his other side. She'd flown in from Austin for the ceremony. She's incredible, Victoria said. She gets it from her mother. After the ceremony, Lily found them in the crowd. She was carrying her diploma, her face flushed with pride. I did it. She threw her arms around David. Dad, I did it. I never doubted you for a second. Susan hugged her next. Then Victoria. What's next? Victoria asked. Graduate school job offers. Lily grinned. Actually, I have news. She pulled out her phone and showed them the screen. An email from Nexus Technologies. I've been offered a position at the Michelle Chen Innovation Lab, lead researcher on the Rural Connectivity Project. David's heart stopped. You're coming to work with me. If you'll have me. Lily, Of course I'll have you. He hugged her again, tighter this time. Your mother would be so happy, he whispered. I know. That's why I said yes. They walked across the Stanford campus together, David, Lily, Susan, and Victoria, past the engineering building where David had once studied, past the lab where he'd met Michelle, past the vending machine that started it all. David stopped. What is it? Lily asked. This is where I met your mother, right here. Lily looked at the vending machine. It was new now, different model, but the same spot. What happened? She was arguing with it. It had stolen her dollar. Lily laughed. Grandma told me that story. She hacked it, right? Reprogrammed the whole thing. Free candy for everyone. That sounds like something I would do. That's because you're her daughter. Lily touched the machine. Her fingers lingered on the glass. I wish I could have met her. You did meet her. You just don't remember. It's not the same. No, it's not. David put his arm around her. But she's here, Lily, in everything you do, in the way you laugh, the way you think, the way you refuse to accept that something is impossible. He turned her to face him. You are her legacy, not the company, not the patents, not the technology. You. Lily's eyes shimmered. I want to make her proud. You already have. You've made her proud every single day of your life." Lily hugged him. And in that moment, surrounded by the ghosts of the past and the promise of the future, David felt something he hadn't felt in years. Complete. That night, David sat alone in his hotel room. The others had gone to bed. The celebration was over. The champagne was drunk. But David couldn't sleep. He pulled out his wallet, opened it, looked at the photograph he'd carried for 21 years. Michelle in the hospital bed. Newborn Lily in her arms. Both of them glowing. "We did it," he whispered. "Our girl graduated from Stanford. She's going to work at the lab. She's going to change the world." He touched Michelle's face through the worn photograph. "I kept my promise. I was there for her. Every day. Every moment." His voice broke. "I miss you so much. Every single day I miss you. But I know you're watching. I know you're proud." He looked out the window at the Stanford campus, at the buildings where they'd met and fallen in love, at the place where their journey had begun. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for loving me. Thank you for Lily. Thank you for every moment we had together." He pressed the photograph to his heart. "I'll see you again someday. And when I do, I'll have so many stories to tell." He closed his eyes, and in the silence he heard her voice, soft, warm, full of love. "I know, baby. I know. I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you." David smiled. For the first time in 21 years, the ache in his chest felt lighter. Not gone. Never gone. But lighter. Manageable. Almost like peace. 6 months later, the Michelle Chen Innovation Lab launched its flagship project, Connect All, a revolutionary system that brought high-speed internet to 5,000 rural schools across America. David stood on stage at the launch event looking out at the crowd. Journalists, investors, politicians, tech leaders from around the world. But his eyes found only two faces. Lily standing in the front row beaming with pride, and beside her, an empty chair. A single white rose resting on the seat. For Michelle. 21 years ago, David began. "I met a woman who changed my life. She was brilliant. She was fierce. She was the love of my life." His voice was steady, strong. Together we dreamed of a world where technology wasn't a privilege, where every child, no matter where they lived, had access to the same opportunities. He looked at the empty chair. She didn't live to see this day. But her dream did. Her legacy did. And today, because of her 5,000 schools, will have the tools they need to change the world. He turned to face the crowd. "This project isn't named after me. It isn't named after any investor or executive. It's named after the woman who made it possible. The woman who believed that kindness was strength and forgiveness was power." His eyes found Lily. "Michelle Chen, my wife, my partner, my inspiration." He raised his hand toward the screen behind him. A photograph appeared. Michelle, young and vibrant, standing in their garage holding the first Horizon Systems prototype. "This is for you, Michelle. Everything I've done. Everything I've built. It's all for you." The crowd erupted in applause. Lily was crying. David stepped down from the stage and walked to her. She threw her arms around him. "She would have loved this," Lily whispered. "I know. You did it, Dad. You really did it." David held his daughter close, and in that moment, surrounded by the culmination of everything he'd worked for, everything he'd lost, everything he'd rebuilt, David Chen understood something he'd been searching for his whole life. Success wasn't measured by money or fame or recognition. It was measured by the lives you touched, the people you loved, the promises you kept. He had touched lives. He had loved deeply. He had kept every promise, and that was enough. That was everything. David looked up at the photograph of Michelle on the screen. "Thank you," he thought. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for Lily. Thank you for every beautiful, heartbreaking, extraordinary moment. I love you. Forever." The applause continued. The cameras flashed. The world celebrated. But David barely noticed. He was already home. He had been home all along. In his daughter's arms. In Michelle's memory. In the quiet, unshakable knowledge that he had lived a life worth living. Fame fades. Fortune disappears. But love endures. And David Chen had loved more deeply, more fiercely, more completely than he ever thought possible. That was his legacy. That was his triumph. That was everything.